for a moment about solitude and loneliness. Loneliness is a funny thing, and I lean heavily on a definition of loneliness that was put forth by the Swiss psychoanalyst Carl Jung. He said that loneliness is not a matter of not having anyone around you to share your life. It is not being without friends or without partners or companions in life. Rather, loneliness is a matter of not being able, feeling yourself to not be able to share with other people the things that are most important to you, or of holding views that others around you or society at large feels or treats as inadmissible. So what he's saying there is loneliness is not a matter of being alone. I guess he differentiates between loneliness and aloneness, or at least I might, based on this definition. You can be surrounded with people. You can have all sorts of friends, colleagues, co-workers, people that you are engaged with in various ways in life, and still be lonely if you do not have an outlet, if you do not have someone or someones with whom you can share the things that are most important to you. And this might be beliefs, values, a viewpoint, an experience, an interpretation of the world, something, whatever it is that you hold very, very dear inside your heart. The thing that is most precious and important to you. If you don't have someone, if you don't have some way of sharing that, then you can be in a crowd all day long and yet be lonely. So I love that definition. I work with that. I've also been influenced as a writer, as a creative person by the work of Rainer Maria Rilke. And I'm reading through this book again this evening, Letters to a Young Poet. It's a compilation of just what it says, letters that Rainer Maria Rilke wrote to a young poet, a young writer friend who wrote to Rainer Maria Rilke early in the 20th century, early 1900s. Over the course of a few years, they had correspondence, and this young writer asked Rilke many questions about life and about writing and creating and work and relationships, and they had this correspondence for a time. And somebody, picked up all the letters and compiled them in this short book. And it's less than 100 pages. But it is rich with all kinds of wonderful content about, like I said, life, human relationships, love, writing, creativity, and all that. But in this book, which I have underlined all up, Rilke says some very profound things about individual solitude that have always just struck me. And there's one quote from a letter he wrote in 1903, July 16th, 1903, from Worpswede, near Bremen, wherever that is. I believe Rilke was German. But in response to the most recent letter, he said this. He said, "Therefore, dear sir, love your solitude and try to sing out with the pain it causes you. For those who are near you are far away, and this shows that the space around you is beginning to grow vast. Be happy about your growth, in which, of course, you can't take anyone with you, and be gentle with those who stay behind. Be confident and calm in front of them, and don't torment them with your doubts, and don't frighten them with your faith or joy, which they wouldn't be able to comprehend anyway. Seek out some simple and true feeling of what you have in common with them, which doesn't necessarily have to alter when you yourself change again and again. When you see them, love life in a form that is not your own. Be indulgent toward those who are growing old, who are afraid of the aloneness that you trust. And don't expect any understanding, but believe in a love that is being stored up for you like an inheritance, and have faith that in this love there is a strength and a blessing so large that you can travel as far as you wish without having to step outside of it." I love that. It's one of my favorite passages from Rilke. And I think because I've been experiencing it so much in the past year or so of my life, this solitude that Rilke talks so much about, and learning to love my solitude. There are moments when I feel what Rilke called in another place in these letters to the young poet friend, unutterably alone. Maybe you've felt that way at some point in your life. Not just that fleeting, passing feeling of longing and loneliness and a feeling for connection that we sometimes feel in a lonely moment, and we want to try to reach out to a friend, a loved one, and have some kind of connection. There is that, but there is also something deeper than that maybe is expressed in that moment if we but had the nerve, the courage, the ability to look beneath it, to see that even in those times, in those moments when we are able to connect with another person, and that's what life is all about, right? That connection, that love that forms us together. You know, we talk about meaning, how we create meaning in our individual lives, but as individuals, we're like words. One word on a blank page by itself means nothing. Words only possess meaning as they are placed in relationship to other words, as we write them in a sentence, in a paragraph, in a story. And so one word gains meaning in its relationship to other words, and we're like that as people. We gain meaning, we create meaning, we have and hold and possess meaning in our relationship to one another. And yet at the same time, at the end of the day, in our darkest moments, in our deepest longings, we are unutterably alone. I think this is a fact of life, of human experience. It's a part of reality that we have to wrestle with, we have to face, we have to deal with. We even have to, as Rilke says here, learn how to love our solitude. And most of us run from that. We don't like to be alone. We don't like to face quiet moments because it brings us face to face with ourselves. And most of us, if we're honest, are not very comfortable being alone with our own thoughts, alone with our own selves. You know, it's like this vast emptiness with which we have no resources to cope. It's scary in a sense. But he talks about this. He talks about it in other places in this book as well, in the context even of marriage, that we have to face the fact that even with those who are closest to us, like say a spouse or a partner, there still yet exist infinite distances between us and the other, even if that other is the beloved one, that person whom we've perhaps committed our life to, who knows us better than anybody else, whom we know better than anybody else, whom we have shared life with in a mutual fashion in ways that we haven't with any other. Even with that one, the beloved other, there exists an infinite distance between us. And a big part of life, a big part of growing up, and I dare say a big part of the creative process is learning to love, at a minimum to not run from, to embrace our solitude, to embrace that loneliness that Jung talked about, which can be so devastating, but at many times in life is so unavoidable. So at a minimum to not run from it, to embrace it, to seek to listen to it and learn from it, but moving beyond that, as Rilke said, to learn to love even our solitude. Because it's in our solitude, I think, is when we find our why for being. That's the creative well from which we are able to draw perhaps our most profound and deepest work. Whatever the richest offering that we have to make to the world, I think we find it in our solitude, in that loneliness, that place of being that we share with none other, and none other can share that place, even the most beloved one. We have to learn to embrace that. And I'm sharing these thoughts with you, I guess, just to even help myself, because this is a process that I don't feel I've in any way come close to perfecting, but I feel it's very important. And I believe that as we grow as individuals, as human beings, life, God, the universe, your soul will continue to confront you with opportunities and chances to turn and face your solitude. your unutterable aloneness in the universe, and to no longer fear it, to no longer run from it, to no longer turn to addictions and compulsive behaviors and all kinds of destructive patterns of thinking and behaving in order to avoid it. That's something else Jung said. He said, people will do the most absurd things to avoid facing their own souls. And I believe that's that place, that solitude. That's where we come face to face with our own soul. And for many of us, that's not a pleasant experience, or that's not something we anticipate being a pleasant experience. So we run from it. We try to avoid it all of our lives. But there's this calling, I think, to embrace and to love our solitude. And Rilke says that there. And he says, try to sing out with the pain that it causes you. And I think that's what he meant there, that this place of solitude is the fountain for the best creative work and expression in the world. That there is a certain experience of pain, the pain of being human, the pain of feeling unutterably alone in the universe, that can cause us to tap into some type of depth. That if we can somehow channel that, somehow live from that place, live from that pain even, we can create the most beautiful and enduring works that can speak to other people in their pain and in their own individual solitude. And that's really the best kind of art, I think. The best kind of creative work of any form or fashion is that kind that speaks to another person from that place of our own inner solitude. Deep calling into deep is an old biblical expression, I think, that expresses what I mean there. But it's the language the language of the heart, I guess. Things that can't be put into words, can't be articulated, so to speak. But when you see a work of art, when you read and you hear that poem, when you hear not just the words, but you sense the longing, you sense the heart of the poet behind the words in the poem that he or she has written, and you sense that it comes from that same place that you feel, that you experience within yourself. And I think that is the essence of all good and true art, is to speak to one another from that place and in that way. So consider this for yourself. Consider this for your own work. Learn to love your solitude, as Rilke said. Learn to sing out with the pain it causes you. And I believe that as we learn to do this, our own work, whatever it might be, will be all the more enriched.